evening and welcome to another episode of Poor vs. Standard. Poor here. As always, we are not financial advisors, so any advice or information within these podcasts is for entertainment purposes only. Please don't sue us. Don't do it. We are now on YouTube, and if you want some visuals to go along with these informative podcasts, feel free to follow us on YouTube now, and the link's in the description. And this is also going to be up on YouTube, so feel free to watch it there as well, and really help me out by dual listening. If you do get any value out of this, we are available on Patreon at patreon.com/poorvstandard. You can also find us at Twitter at @vs_poor. Just reach out and talk to us. It's always a good time. All right, listeners, let's get into it. What do you say? So in the news in the last week or so, we've had Elon getting targeted by Anonymous, which is a hacker group, for those of you who don't know who Anonymous is, for his possible hand in manipulating crypto markets. Speaking of crypto markets and manipulation, former President Trump has joined the chorus of older people who think they know what cryptocurrency is, and he says that he believes Bitcoin is a scam. So you can chalk it up to a non-party issue, because both Janet Yellen and the whole Fed team, as well as Trump on the other side, have all rang in and said that they don't like Bitcoin in some way or another. So it's a non-partisan issue. There's those who like Bitcoin and those who don't on both sides, apparently. AMC, as you may know, is in the midst of one of the most highly watched social movements of the generation, like GameStop before it. And it is only one of a few stocks that are actually feeling a squeeze. Now, there's a difference between a squeeze and a stock going up, and we're going to get into all of that stuff. So stay tuned for that. We did miss our jobs report numbers when they came out by about 100K, which was apparently, the sweet spot for the market not to freak the fuck out. So it was well received, I guess. And if you have gone grocery shopping lately, you may have noticed that you are seeing a spike in your meat prices, because there was another hack into one of the largest meat companies in the United States. And that hack forced the shutdown, essentially, of the plants in the U.S. districts that are packaging, producing, and shipping out meats. Ransomware, super fun. Love when they shut down the infrastructure. It's a good time. So yeah, you may have seen a 40% jump in some meat prices that you were not expecting to hit your pocketbook. So make sure you can save up for actual chicken tendies before you try and make tendies. You heard? We haven't had a podcast in a little bit over a week, and they have been short and sweet because I've been kind of busy doing stuff, other things, I have a lot of other irons in the fire as far as getting this multi-platformed and things like that. So bear with me while we keep doing this. But yes, I do apologize for being late with this podcast. And I also apologize if you hear any type of fan noise in the background, as it is stupid hot here. It was supposed to rain and it didn't, and it's like 90 degrees. And so I've got the AC running in my little semi-studio area here because I don't want to sweat. I'm a big boy. I don't need that in my life. I have an air conditioner. It works well. I'm going to use it. For those of you who, live through those Arizona, Nevadas, and it's just dry heat, it's amazing. 110, 90 degrees, you're a baby. It's humid, 90 degrees. So, like, Florida people, you probably feel me. You don't go outside in the summer, and this is the reason why, because it's stupid hot and humid and gross, and you can't breathe, and it feels awful, and you just want to, I don't know, not live in that. So wherever you are in the U.S., just know that I'm hot and I don't like it. So I do apologize if you hear any type of noise in the background. I will, in editing, try and remove that. All right, so markets. Let's see what we got. So we'll start with the cryptos. Today being Monday, the last recording we had a little over a week ago, Bitcoin was at 35,655, and we are at Monday, June 7th at around 8:30 p.m. We're currently at 33,546. So down about 2K from where it was a week ago. And this is fresh off of like the news story I found about Trump saying that, and people are freaking out, which, whatever. Buy the dip. If it goes down to 25, I'm probably taking out a second mortgage on my house. No, not really, but I'd think about it. I'd think about it real hard. Ethereum last time was about 2,400. Currently it's 2,570, so it's actually up over the course of the week, even though it's down 7% from 24 hours ago. Litecoin was 170, currently $1.60, so down about $10. And Cardano was $1.56, and is currently almost $1.56 on the money. And you'll also notice, if you are a Coinbase Pro user, they moved Cardano into the third spot, and they added Dogecoin, which is kind of funny. But we can start covering Doge if you want. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, they put, I don't know if they're sorting them by market cap or what, but I'm very happy that I don't have to scroll all the way down to find Cardano anymore. And it's more visible, so that's very cool. One of the largest platforms in the world now has Cardano at spot 3, right below Ethereum. That's awesome. Okay. Now for the fun stuff. So we've been covering market recovery stocks for a long while, since last November, and I feel like you guys don't really want to know these on a weekly basis. You just want to see, like, we might do this once a month. We'll cover SPY every week, but the rest of them we might do like a monthly thing, and then after the year, on this November, which is 5 months away, we'll give like a final update on these and call it good. We don't want to do this we'll figure out. Then maybe in like January, you guys could do like a vote on what stocks you want covered on like a bi-weekly basis and we'll go through them, or even a weekly basis, I don't care, and we'll go through a new list of stocks. So that's kind of my plan for this part. If you like it, let me know. If not, well, tell me to go to hell. Do whatever you want. Okay, so SPY, when we started covering it on November 7th of 2020, it was $358. Currently, SPY is $422.26. So it's a pretty decent chunk of cheddar. The rest of these are up pretty decently from when we started covering them. Little bit of change week to week. The best, if you look at the real estate sector, of the three that we cover, Realty Income, Store Capital, and Vicky, I feel like has had the fastest rise, and one of the biggest rises too. I mean, Realty Income, we started at 63, it's currently trading at 70. Store Capital was 31 when we started covering it, it's currently 36, and Vicky Properties was 24 when we started, it's currently 32. So not bad. And Vicky is a gaming, like, casino and stuff, so that's probably going to start hitting real good. I went to the casino the other week, and I made myself about $400, so, threw that down on some AMC calls. Okay. And with that, I kind of want to get into the meat of the episode. which I believe I named this episode "Squeezing Sense Out of the Market" because who doesn't like some wordplay? So we're going to cover a couple things. We're going to cover some of the stocks that are squeezing. We're going to cover what types the difference is between a gamma squeeze and a short squeeze, because some people use those interchangeably and it's not accurate. And you can have one without the other, but sometimes you will get both. And it depends on the action in the specific stock. So let's get into that. So first things first, we're going to talk about what a gamma squeeze is. So Google it real quick. Gamma squeeze happens when the underlying stock price begins to go up very quickly in a short period of time. As more money flows into the call options from investors, that forces more buying activity, which can lead to higher stock prices. So market makers who make basically sell the options plays on it. If a stock starts going up very rapidly and there's a number of calls that are suddenly in the money, they need to buy the underlying shares for the options they wrote in order to make sure that they can cover their responsibility of giving those 100 shares to someone who owns an option that's going to be in the money. The sooner they do that and cover their call, the less likely they are to have to pay a higher price later on. So that's why sometimes you'll see on like a Thursday or a Friday a wild swing in prices, is because the stock starts going up and then it has to go up even further when people are, when, corporations and stuff, the market makers, start to buy a large number of shares to cover all the options they wrote that are in the money that they didn't have covered. And that's what induces the gamma squeeze. Basically, the calls are forcing large numbers of shares to be bought so that those calls can be covered. And that in turn makes the price go up, making more calls in the money, in turn making them buy more shares. And it goes like that until eventually there's, no calls that have been written, or there's, very few calls that they can just cover. So that's the essential of a gamma squeeze. Now, a short squeeze, which you guys are probably more familiar with, is when companies have shorted a stock. They've sold shares that they've borrowed, because naked short squeezing, while not illegal, is frowned upon. No one's going to go to prison for naked short selling at all. But essentially, a naked short squeeze is where you sell shares you don't have and you have none located that you can borrow against. Normal short selling is when you have gone to a brokerage and said, hey, I want to short sell this many shares, and I hope that you will find those shares for me, because you are the brokerage, I am the client, and I've told you what I want to do. So the brokerage will in good faith execute that order and then try and find the shares. So sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And that's basically how they get around it, loopholey. Tom Nash did a good video on this. Meet Kevin just did a video on this. And I believe even Jeremy just released a video on this from Financial Education. So I'm not saying that I am the utmost authority in this, and I am not saying that I am the only resource in this. There are other YouTubers and people who can absolutely help you figure out, what a gamma squeeze is, what a short squeeze is. And so, in reference to the short squeeze, a lot of shares need to be shorted in order for this to happen. So what'll happen is, there's a very good example of this from many years ago that I wasn't even paying attention to and didn't realize until I saw, I believe it was Charlie from Zip Trader on YouTube talk about the Volkswagen squeeze, and then I looked into it a little more. But basically, all of these larger institutions owned almost all the shares in Volkswagen, but all these hedge funds and things were shorting the shit out of it. And so when they went to buy them, no one was interested in selling. So it jacked the price of Volkswagen up and up and up and up and up because these people wanted to cover their positions that they'd sold shares of that they didn't actually have shares of. And no one was willing to sell them their shares, so it was like, name your price. And that's basically what the short sale is or the short squeeze is. It's if nobody's selling the shares and these people need to locate and find shares to buy, it gets very expensive for them very quickly to buy shares if there's no shares to buy, because it's basically a bidding war for all these shares that they don't own, that they borrowed from someone, or in some cases didn't borrow at all, but still need to cover to have a zero balance. Because when you sell a shorted share, you have a negative balance of shares, essentially. It's like selling a call or a put. You have a negative balance of calls or a negative balance of puts, so you need to buy it back in order to close the position. Same idea. So for those of you that have been with us forever and went through all of the options stuff at the beginning, you understand what I'm talking about. So basically same concept, but with shares, not options. They've sold shares. They need to buy shares to get back to net zero. And if there are no shares to buy, the price will shoot up. So you could have a stock like AMC that is shorted pretty largely, and that could go and everyone could hold their shares and start buying more shares and buying to the point where the price goes up 10%, 20% in a day, and then the shorts have, stop losses that'll start to trigger, so they want to buy those shares, so they start adding to buy the shares. And then there's the call options that are in the money now because the stock has gone up 10, 20%. And so now institutions have to buy more shares to cover the in-the-money call options that are expiring soon. So you have the gamma squeeze, and then you have the short squeeze working in tandem to raise the price. And that's why you see things like 100% gains or multi-100% gains in a week or a day. I mean, we saw AMC go up 100% in one day. We've seen it go up 400% in a week. So, I mean, it's a thing that can happen. And it's not even, if you believe some people, close to done. Because there are still a large number of short shares. There's a lot of discussion about this naked short selling, which is, it's not a good thing. It's not a good look. And then there was also the article about how Bank of America and Goldman Sachs are going to stop they're making it more difficult for short sellers to sell short a number of companies that are part of this squeeze, essentially, because they don't want to lose money. They don't want to lose clients. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because their risk tolerance is too much for them. And so that's going to make it even more difficult for people who have already shorted these stocks to cover their positions. So hypothetically, if no one sold, it would be another Volkswagen thing where it would be name your price. The difference between the Volkswagen thing where they had a short squeeze and this with AMC is that you have hundreds of thousands, if not a million plus retail investors who own anywhere from like a share to 10 shares to 20 shares to several thousand to tens of thousands of shares. I mean, so that's basically, there's another percentage out that like retail owns over 80% of all the shares. If retail worked as a cohesive unit, kind of like they are, but you knew that no one was selling, not a single person, this short squeeze would go up and it would very rarely go down until everyone decided at the same time. that they would sell. And some would get stuck holding the bag, it's true. But and that's basically what hedge funds do. They have that much money where they can manipulate markets and buy and sell things in a way that makes them money. And so retail acting like a hedge fund is scaring the crap out of hedge funds for good reason, because they're not used to coordinated. And it's not even that it's coordinated, it's very loosely coordinated at best. It's basically, we have access to information on the internet now. And one of the most funny things that I just saw was there was a Reddit post that went viral where someone was like trying to downplay GameStop, and they forgot to switch accounts, and like finally someone making sense about GameStop. So they were like trying to say like GameStop's stupid, and then it was literally like a bot account trying to instill fear into Redditors about GameStop not being squeeze play, which that kind of, mental warfare is a thing that's going to happen. When money is involved, people will do whatever they can to keep their money and make more. So you got to be careful. Money is the root of all evil. There's a fun equation about that I'm not going to share with you, but it's you look up the money being the root of all evil equation and you'll see. It's a funny thing. I don't believe it, but it's still funny. It's 2020, so you gotta be careful what you say. 2021. I'm a year behind. Oh, God. Anyway, so there are a number of other positions that have been affected and are squeezing. Some say Fubo is one of those positions that's squeezing. And I don't think Fubo is squeezing so much as it's just going up. But there are those that are, and Clove is definitely one of them. Clover Health is one of the most shorted stocks, if not the most shorted on the market right now. As I told you, lost $5,000 on this stock because my timing was off. I was buying all these calls, and lo and behold, it went up $3.90 today. So my timing was off by a couple weeks, unfortunately. I wish I'd bought further out, but that's what happens when you buy, short time till expiration contracts. So you gotta be careful with that. I've since bought another call, and I do still own shares, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can make my $5,000 back. And another one that's really heavily shorted is Workhorse. Now, we used to talk about Workhorse. They used to be worth a lot more, and then they got the rug pulled out from under them with their USPS contract when it was awarded to Oshkosh instead of Workhorse, who everyone thought was going to win it as a shoo-in. But yeah, that's basically, they dropped all the way down to like $6 or $8, and now they've because they were shorted so heavily after that, and now they're starting to squeeze as well. Over the last week, I think they've gone up almost 50%. So that's, another one to look out for as far as if you're looking for short squeeze plays. Tattooed Chef, not to the same extent. It's not so much a short squeeze play as it is, but it isn't. Like, there is a heavy short presence in it, and these are short squeezes, not gamma squeezes. But the ones that I'm looking at are this Be Big as a short squeeze, Clove. I really do think is going to be one of those that turns from a short, like, it's gone up. It went up 43% today, putting a lot more options plays in the money. So you will probably see a gamma squeeze on this as well. I know that options up to last week, 22.50 options were for August were 25 cents. At the end of the day today, those options were, let's find out. We're here. We have it up for the people who are watching on YouTube. Boom. The 2250 options are now $1.65. So that is 5x'd over the course of today, which is insane. So that's something to look out for. So I can't playing these squeeze plays and things, while fun, very, very dangerous. You have to be willing to lose anything you're going to put into it. I have bought into a lot of these squeeze plays, mostly because I believe in the movement, I believe in what it's doing, I believe in how it's trying to change the investment world, because for so long we've had two sets of rules. We've had the set of rules that retail investors like myself and you folks have to play by, and then we've had the set of rules for Wall Street, where they get to do all sorts of crazy things because they're the ones who have the most money, so they can do all sorts of stuff behind closed doors. They can coordinate with other hedge funds and do nefarious things to screw the retail investors out of their, equity in markets. And I've never liked that. I didn't think that was okay. And this is trying to shine a light on that. It's trying to show people, hey, look at this thing that Wall Street's doing that isn't okay, because they're the only ones that can do it, and it's not cool. It's literally cheating. I've never liked people who cheat at video games. I've never liked people who cheat on their spouses, and I've never liked people who cheat when it comes to money. Cheaters in general suck. So anytime I can help expose a cheater, I'm going to do that. Absolutely. But yeah. So that's just my 2 cents on that. But while we're here, I guess we can talk about the portfolio and where we're at with that. So as you can see on the screen from, if you're on YouTube, our current account value is $33,742. So we're up. Today we're up $2,162. Not bad for one day. Roughly almost 7%, which is super nice. Clove was a big part of that, as it contributed about $1,000 to that. AMC was about $150 of it. Sidious Pharmaceuticals, which is one of the companies that's going to be added to the Russel. So the Russel recombination is happening, and they last Friday released a bunch of the companies that will be added to the Russels, and a bunch of the stocks that we've talked about are actually being added. So Sidious Pharmaceuticals, CTXR, what else was going to be added that we owned? Palantir going to be added. Sense, SENS, going to be added. And Torch is going to be added. There were a few others, but I don't know that we have them. So yeah, very cool that a bunch of the ones that we've talked about are going to be added to the Russel, which means at the end of this month, when hedge funds that mimic the Russel and hedge funds that use the Russel as their base decide that they're going to, well, they're not going to decide, they have to add these positions to their accounts, that will be a nice boom for these stocks as well. And you've seen that today, because these aren't short squeeze plays, they're just stocks going up, because they know that these stocks are going to be added to the index, which means a lot of other funds have to buy them because they're going to be part of the index. So they will go up when that happens, because billions of dollars are going to be flooding into all of these new companies that are going to be added. So hold on tight, because those will be good for July. And we did buy a couple more option plays on AMC today. We did call debit spreads, because the options on AMC are stupid expensive, because the IV has forced the options to go ridiculously high. Like, if you want to buy something close to the money, it's like $17 for like a week out. So you really have to have AMC go up another like 25 30% in order to just break even by the time of expiration. So the call debit spreads and call credit spreads, I believe I've been doing call debit spreads because those are bullish, whereas call debit spreads are bearish. So call credit spreads, it's like, a $5 spread it's all in the money by $10, $15, and it costs me $250 to do it, and it's a $5 spread, so I should double my money in a week. I'm not greedy. I'll absolutely do that. I did a couple of them, and I'm hoping it pans out, because there's a lot of options pinning that they try and do with short sells and things like that. It's when they manipulate things, they do it because they don't want to have to pay out on stock options that are in the money. So that's why last Friday you saw AMC finish below 50. And then today it jumped back above 50 because it was the way options and stock work is they basically have 2 days of settlement time. So if they sold short shares on Friday and bought them back today, that's how you're getting these synthetic shares and these dark pool short shares. They're selling shares that they don't own, and then they're buying them back before the settlement time, so it's like those shares never existed. And that's the problem I have, because they're basically just taking money. So they would have rather done this way by selling short all those shares to pump the price down below those call options being in the money, and then buying them back today even above that call number, because it was cheaper for them to do that than pay out on all those calls. And that's kind of what options pinning is. So so 33.7 is definitely one of our newer highs for a while, before we were up at 38,000. But I believe last week we finished at like 31.5 or 32, so we're definitely up. It's not bad. But yeah, we'll definitely keep going, and I'll try and get the next episode out to you folks with swinging for the fences plays that are not tied to in any way, shape, or form these crazy squeeze plays. And we'll actually get back to fundamentals and things. I know it's not the most sexy thing right now, so I'm trying to give you guys what you want, because I've heard a lot of questions about squeezing and shorting and all this stuff. And so I'm trying to help answer those questions as best I can, giving you the resources throughout the episode of the other YouTubers that have already followed this stuff and given, summaries of what it is. So thank you so much for listening. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe, do whatever you got to do with the buttons to get more of this content. We do always appreciate you joining the Patreon, as that is the lifeblood of this podcast, where the more patrons we get, the more things we can do, buy other resources to get better information to better serve you. So with that, thank you, stay safe, and good night.